The emergency beacon was already flashing by the time the human shuttle docked with the medical barge Zarathin. The ship, a ponderous, floating cathedral of sterile steel and humming diagnostics, loomed against the black backdrop of space like a forgotten relic. Inside, chaos reigned. "Who the hell rerouted me here?" Andrew Halden yanked his duffel from the overhead hatch and stepped onto the gangway. He was still in the black coveralls of his orbital relief unit, a small patch stitched over the chest that read, "Halden, Surgical Response." A tall, violet-skinned alien with eyes like polished glass met him at the airlock. Its limbs moved with practiced control, each motion deliberate. "You are Dr. Halden?" it asked in flawless English. "Yeah," Andrew said. "And you are Chief Meditech Sorath. We summoned you under Directive Epsilon. We have a situation." Andrew nodded slowly. "You people only use Epsilon for top-tier emergencies." "So what's the deal?" Sorath turned without answering and led Andrew through a gleaming corridor that smelled faintly of antiseptic and metal. They passed open bays where medics in gray uniforms hovered over patients of a dozen species. No one spoke. Only machines beeped and hissed. At the end of the corridor, a heavy door ear-eyed open, revealing a surgical theater bathed in soft blue light. Suspended in the center of the room was a creature nearly the length of a city bus scales shimmering, its breathing labored. A thick, transparent membrane covered its lower torso, holding in what looked like shattered organ sacs and a twisted internal bone frame. Andrew's eyes widened. "That's a Kirellian Alpha Strider. They're not even supposed to exist in this sector." "He crash-landed on the asteroid belt outside Vesta," Sorath said. "Fractured sternum, ruptured quad lung, displaced spinal core, and internal bleeding from 3 separate organ clusters." Andrew dropped his bag. "So why am I here?" "I'm a trauma surgeon, not an interspecies vet." "You are here," Sorath replied, "because we cannot operate. The Kirellian body is far denser and more temperature-sensitive than we anticipated. Our instruments overheat, and the surgery will take an estimated 89 hours with our current setup." Andrew blinked. 89 hours, straight? "Yes, and you expect him to survive that?" "No." He looked at the creature's face, its eyelids twitching under sedation. "How much time does he have?" 5 hours, 6 at most. "We have stabilized him with cryo-suspension pulses, but that will degrade rapidly." Andrew exhaled slowly. "All right, I'll take a look." He suited up, washed in with a full decontamination cycle, and stepped into the surgical theater. It took him 30 minutes just to get a full scan. The alien's anatomy was like a cross between a deep-sea squid and a Komodo dragon. Nothing was in the right place. Organs overlapped, bones fused into spirals. The lungs operated on a dual-chamber rhythm he'd never seen outside of xenobiology textbooks. Sorath watched from the observation deck. "We can provide 2 assistants and a full robotic array if you choose to proceed." Andrew tapped the side of his helmet. "I won't need the robots. They'll just slow me down, but I'll take the assistants." "Are you suggesting you can complete the surgery?" "I'm saying I'll try," Andrew said. "But not in 89 hours, I'll do it in 3. Sorath tilted its head. "That is not feasible." Andrew didn't answer. He was already issuing commands to the assistants. The first hour was a blur of incisions, cauterizations, and micro-adjustments. Andrew worked without pause, his gloved hands moving through layers of unfamiliar tissue. The assistants adapted quickly, passing tools before he even asked. He directed them like a conductor, orchestrating every movement. "Retract the 3rd membrane. No, not that one, the one with the vascular lattice." "Yes, hold it there." The assistant complied silently. By the 2nd hour, sweat dripped down his neck, even beneath the cooling mesh of his suit. His hands ached. He ignored it. "Clamps. Get me full compression on the spinal sheath. I need a clearer view of the ruptured core." He manipulated a microfilament into the creature's spinal cavity and began reweaving the damaged neural threads. It was like threading a needle while underwater, half blind. "You're reattaching neural tissue manually?" Soreth's voice crackled through the comms. "Your bots aren't fast enough," Andrew muttered. "If I don't do this now, the whole system collapses." Midway through the third hour, the bleeding began again. One of the organ sacs ruptured from internal pressure. "Get me the biosuture compound. Now." The assistant handed over a vial. Andrew injected it directly into the sac, then massaged the area to distribute the compound. The bleeding slowed. "He's stabilizing," the assistant said. "Don't get excited, we're not done." He closed the wounds layer by layer until only the outer membrane remained. His movements slowed. His arms trembled. "Vitals are returning to baseline," the assistant said. Andrew sealed the final incision, then staggered back. "All right," he said. "Start recovery procedures." Soreth entered the room, scanning the data. "You completed it." "In 3 hours," Andrew said hoarsely. "I need water." Soreth handed him a flask. "I did not believe this was possible." Andrew drank, then flopped onto a chair. "Neither did I. But here we are. What allowed you to work at such speed?" "I've done battlefield surgeries in vacuum tents on moving transports during meteor storms," Andrew said. "You put enough pressure on someone, they adapt." A silence passed between them. Then Soreth said, "You will remain for observation. We must ensure the patient does not reject the grafts." "Fine, but I need a bed and maybe a week of sleep." "You will have both." Andrew stood, his legs unsteady. As he walked out, he glanced back at the alien on the table. Its chest rose and fell smoothly. "Tell me when he wakes up," he said. "We will," Soreth replied. Andrew didn't make it 10 paces down the corridor before he passed out. 2 medics caught him, half dragged, half carried him into the nearest recovery bay. He woke up 12 hours later, Roman 4 in his arm, his shoulder wrapped from a pulled tendon. A human nurse stood nearby, reviewing a tablet. "You're awake," she said. "You scared the hell out of everyone." Andrew groaned. "How long have I been out?" 12 hours. "You were dehydrated and borderline hypothermic. Your core temp dropped because you didn't take any breaks, and your blood pressure tanked right after the surgery." "I'm fine," he muttered. "You're not fine," she said. "You're stitched up and rehydrated, but your body's still in stress mode. You need at least 3 days before you're even walking straight." He tried to sit up and immediately winced. "See," she said. "Don't be a hero." "I wasn't trying to be, just didn't want that creature to die." Later that day, Soreth visited him again. "He is awake," Soreth said. "And aware." Andrew sat straighter. "He talking?" "Not yet, but he recognizes faces. He blinked when your image was shown." Andrew exhaled. "That's good. You will remain on the Zarathan until he is cleared for transport. We have prepared quarters. Appreciate it." Soreth stood there a moment longer. "I have studied human medicine for centuries. I have never seen surgery performed at such pace." Andrew shrugged. "You adapt. That is what I do not understand. How do humans adapt so quickly to unfamiliar systems?" Andrew looked at him. "Because we've had to. Our species isn't the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but you put us in a corner and we'll find a way out." Soreth tilted its head. "I will reflect on this." Andrew spent the next 2 days in bed. He couldn't walk properly until the 4th day. By then, the Kirellian was fully conscious. Andrew visited him in the recovery ward. The creature looked at him, its eyes enormous and unblinking. Andrew raised a hand. "Hey. You probably don't understand me, but you're alive. That's what matters." The Kirellian blinked once. Then again, Soreth stepped up beside him. "He understands. He is asking for your name." Andrew grinned. "Andrew Halden, surgeon and very tired man." The Kirellian made a low, thrumming sound. "He is grateful," Soreth said. Andrew nodded. "Good. Now let's get you out of here before I get roped into another emergency." Soreth watched him as he turned to leave. "You altered the course of this mission," Soreth said. "And our understanding of your species." Andrew glanced over his shoulder. "Well, guess you'll be rewriting a few medical textbooks." Soreth's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Yes. Starting with the chapter on impossible surgeries." Andrew Halden pressed the heel of his palm against his temple, squinting at the display console in the patient observation pod. The Kirellian's vitals scrolled in slow, looping strands of green across the screen. Stable, for now. Behind him, soft chimes signaled the airlock cycling shut. A new medic entered tall and angular, with a sheen like brushed copper across their segmented carapace. The movement of their mandibles suggested restrained curiosity. "You are the one who stitched the impossible," they said, voice filtered through a translator that sounded faintly like wind over gravel. Andrew didn't look up. "You got a name. Designate Thren. I am assigned to biofeedback telemetry and post-operative monitoring." "Good. Then you can tell me why his protein regeneration is already spiking past what we calibrated." Thren approached and tapped delicately on the data panel. Kirellians initiate internal compensatory overdrive when recovering from invasive trauma. The response is erratic and poorly documented. Until now, few survived such procedures. Andrew leaned closer to the monitor. "So you're saying his own body's overdoing it?" "Correct. He is healing faster than anticipated, but also producing excess waste proteins. If not filtered, they may clog his vascular junctions." "Great. So we save him, only for him to choke on his own recovery." Thren's mandibles clicked once. "There is a filtration protocol, but it has never been tested in a live Kirellian." "Well," Andrew muttered, "guess today's the day." He turned toward the medical supply alcove and gestured. "Bring me the adjustable micro cannula set and prep the secondary filtration shunt. I'll need a 2mm bore access channel, no preloaded agents." Thren hesitated. "You will perform this manually," Andrew glanced back. "Unless you've got a better idea, yeah." Without another word, Thren moved to comply, limbs moving with surprising grace for something that resembled a praying mantis mated with a chandelier. As Andrew sterilized the surgical port, another alien entered shorter, cloaked in layers of fabric that shimmered faintly blue. The figure hovered near the doorway, watching. "Unless you're here to assist, you're in the way," Andrew said without turning. "I am the liaison for the Kirellian Accord," the figure said. "Your presence here is politically delicate." Andrew pressed the injector into the Kirellian's flank and began threading the micro cannula between the dermal ridges. "You want delicate, take it up with whoever let him crash on Vesta." "I'm just trying to keep him breathing." "You lack proper clearance for interspecies post-operative intervention." "Clearance?" Andrew didn't look up. "I'm elbow deep in a vascular junction. He dies and you can write all the reports you want. Won't change the outcome." There was a pause. Then, unexpectedly, the liaison stepped forward. "I know nothing of surgery," they said, "but I can monitor vitals if one of your hands is occupied." Andrew blinked. "That's a first. What's your name?" "Vess, no designation." "All right, Vess, see that panel. Call out if his pressure drops below 120 or spikes beyond 180. And if his blood oxygen dips, hit the orange tab." "I understand." Andrew slid the cannula deeper, feeling for the resistance that would mark the waste channel. "Thren, adjust the shunt valve to low flow." "I want a slow draw, give his system time to adapt." Thren complied silently. A quiet hum filled the room as the filtration unit activated. The Kirellian twitched once, then settled, the erratic spike in protein levels beginning to slope downward. "We're getting a response," Vess said. "Oxygen holding steady." Andrew leaned back on his heels. "Good, if this holds, we might just avoid a second surgery." Thren's head swiveled slightly. "You operate as if improvisation were standard protocol." Andrew peeled off his gloves. "Where I'm from it is. You do not treat medicine as a science. I treat it like survival." There was another pause. Then Thren said, "That distinction may be the key to your success." Andrew sat on the edge of the counter and exhaled. "Yeah, well, it's also the reason I haven't had a vacation in 4 years." Hours passed. The filtration continued without incident. Thren remained nearby, adjusting flow rates as needed. Vess sat cross-legged near the vitals console, watching silently. Occasionally, the Kirellian made a soft, submerged sound like stones shifting underwater. Sometime in the next cycle, the door opened again. Soreth entered, carrying a folded data slate. "We have received a diplomatic inquiry," he said. "The Kirellian consulate has requested a full procedural report, including surgical footage." Andrew gestured toward the observation deck. "It's all recorded. Take what you need." "They also wish to initiate formal recognition. You have been designated as an honorary intermediary." Andrew blinked. "That sounds like something that comes with more responsibilities than I want." "It is ceremonial," Soreth said, "but it comes with transport priority and access to restricted archives." Andrew considered. "Can I trade those for a new spine?" "No." "Then I'll settle for a strong cup of something caffeinated." Vess stood. "I will retrieve it." Andrew watched them go. "You know," he said to Soreth, "you people are oddly polite for a medical ship. This ship was once a diplomatic vessel. We retain certain customs." "Well, I appreciate it. Most places I work, they'd already be asking if I could do it again with my eyes closed." Thren tilted its head. "Could you?" Andrew laughed, a short, dry sound. "Not unless I grow 4 more hands and stop needing sleep." The Kirellian stirred again. This time its eyes opened slowly, glassy and dark, but focused. Soreth stepped forward. "He is attempting communication." Andrew approached the bedside, keeping his voice low. "Hey. You still with us?" The Kirellian made a low, resonant hum, then a series of clicks that fluctuated in pitch. Vess returned, handing Andrew a small mug. "It means Pathmender, he is naming you." Andrew took the mug and stared at the patient. "Tell him I'm honored and tired." "Mostly tired." The Kirellian closed its eyes again, but the hum continued, softer now. Thren watched the exchange. "Most species do not speak during early recovery." "He's got a lot to process," Andrew said. "I'd be a little chatty too if I woke up with new plumbing." Soreth turned toward the door. "I will relay the report. You may remain as long as necessary." After they left, Andrew sat by the bed, sipping something that tasted like licorice and motor oil. Vess sat across from him. "You do not seem to enjoy praise." "I enjoy outcomes," Andrew said. "Praise doesn't fix anyone, but it may open doors. I've walked through enough doors. I'm more interested in keeping the ones behind me shut." Vess tilted their head. "You carry many ghosts." Andrew looked at the Kirellian. "Everyone in my line of work does." Silence settled again, broken only by the soft hiss of the filtration unit and the rhythmic beeps from the vitals display. Eventually, Thren stood. "I must rotate out. Another shift begins shortly." "Thanks for the assist," Andrew said. Thren paused at the door. "I will request to be assigned to your next procedure." Andrew raised an eyebrow. "Planning ahead, are we?" Merely anticipating the improbable. When Thren departed, Vess remained. "You'll need rest soon," they said. "I'll get it," Andrew replied. "After I'm sure he's past the critical window." "You are not like others we've worked with." "I'm not trying to be. That may be why it works." Andrew didn't answer. He sat beside the Kirellian for a long while, watching the rise and fall of its chest. The hum never stopped, but it grew fainter, more rhythmic, as if syncing with the monitors. Hours later, he finally stood, rolled out his shoulders, and stretched. "All right," he muttered. "Maybe now I'll sleep." Vess followed him to the door. "We will monitor him." "You've done enough." Andrew nodded. "Make sure he knows that. He already does." As the door closed behind him, the hum inside the room continued, softer now, steady. By the 4th day after surgery, the Kirellian, now referred to in logs as patient Zeta Nar, was upright in a modified recovery tank. The fluid had been drained to half capacity, exposing the upper torso and allowing movement of its primary limbs. Its eyes tracked motion independently, and its vocal harmonics had stabilized enough to produce limited sound sequences. Andrew stood at the bedside, holding a diagnostic wand in one hand and a steaming bowl of something that claimed to be broth in the other. "You know, I've worked in 9 different gravity wells," he said between slow sips, "but your physiology still makes less sense than a Martian tax code." Zeta Nar's response was a slow modulation of tone, rising and falling like a tuning fork submerged in syrup. "He's attempting a reciprocal identifier," Vess translated from the adjacent console. He's trying to assign you a personal glyph. Andrew raised an eyebrow. Is that going to involve any tattoos or ceremonial robes? No, Vess said. Just a name. One only he will use. Zeta Nar emitted another sequence shorter this time with a sharp dip at the end. Vess looked up from the translator relay. He has chosen Halden. It is a compound term. It means one who untangles fate without regard for cost. Andrew gave a dry chuckle. I guess Andrew didn't make the shortlist. Zeta Nar's eyes blinked in offset rhythm, then remained fixed on Andrew's face. All right, Halden it is, Andrew said. But only if he agrees to eat something that doesn't require a feeding tube today. Vess tapped several commands into the nutrient interface. His gastrointestinal tract has resumed autonomous function. A mild protein broth is appropriate. Start with a quarter portion, Andrew said. His internal lining still has microtears. Any more and we'll be cleaning up his insides again. Zeta Nar reached one of his upper limbs toward the feeding port and tapped it twice. Vess paused. He is requesting to administer it himself. That is a sign of restoration among his kind. Fine, Andrew said. But if he aspirates it, I'm letting someone else do the suctioning. As Vess prepared the nutrient dispenser, the doors to the recovery suite parted to admit Soreth, who carried a data slate with a blinking notification icon. We have received the post-operative audit, Soreth said without preamble. The Oversight Council has reviewed the footage and submitted an amendment to the Emergency Protocol Index. Andrew didn't look up. Let me guess. They want to rename Epsilon to Halden Protocol. No, Soreth said. But they have added a clause indicating that humans may operate without time constraints under high-failure scenarios. Andrew blinked. Wait, you mean you've rewritten your triage guidelines based on one case? Not rewritten, Soreth said. Adjusted. The clause is titled Human Anomaly Allowance. I'm not sure if I should be flattered or insulted. Vess stepped forward. There is more. Kirellian representatives are requesting a formal debrief from you directly. Andrew set the broth down. I'm not a diplomat. You are the only human to operate on one of their kind and succeed, Vess replied. They believe your perspective holds essential insight into interspecies care. Andrew ran a hand through his hair. All right. But I'm not putting on a ceremonial sash or anything. No attire is required, Soreth said. Only your presence. Great. When? Now, Andrew stared at him. I thought I'd at least get to finish my soup. They are connected remotely. The transmission room is prepared. Of course it is. He stood, joints cracking, and handed the diagnostic wand to Vess. Keep an eye on his vitals. If his pressure spikes more than 15 points, sedate him. If the discharge rate from the shunt drops below threshold, call me. Vess nodded once. The transmission chamber was smaller than Andrew expected, just a circular room with a single chair and a semi-holographic interface hovering above a matte black floor. The lights dimmed as he entered, and the image flickered to life without ceremony. 3 Kirellians appeared, arranged in a triangular configuration. Their coloration was deeper than Zeta Nar's, with more pronounced cranial ridges and elaborate bioluminescent patterns across their thoraxes. One of them emitted a complex tone sequence. The translator took a moment longer than usual before responding. We greet the one known as Halden. You have unraveled what we considered terminal. Speak of your method. Andrew sat slowly. It wasn't magic. Just anatomy, pressure management, and not waiting for someone else to figure it out. Another Kirellian leaned forward slightly and released a slow, harmonic exhalation. You intervened without full knowledge of our internal architecture. I had enough. The rest I figured out on the table. This time, all 3 emitted overlapping sounds. The translator hesitated, then said, You proceeded despite incomplete certainty. That is not logical. No, it's not, Andrew said. It's necessary. You wait for perfect data, people die. Sometimes you move with what you've got. The central Kirellian blinked slowly. You risked your own stability to preserve one you had no bond with. Andrew shrugged. That's kind of the deal when you're a trauma surgeon. There was a pause. Then the third Kirellian emitted a sound like a plucked harp string. You are unlike other bipeds we have observed. You persist where others pause. You improvise where others stall. We do not comprehend this. Andrew leaned back. You don't need to. Just know it works. The Kirellians conferred through a series of glancing hums and color pulses. Finally, the central one spoke. We will add your procedures to our medical canon. You are permitted to consult on future Kirellian interventions, should you choose. Andrew stood. Appreciate the offer, but I'd rather not make a habit of surgery under panic conditions. The Kirellians inclined their heads in unison. Then we will honor Halden as the first of his kind to restore a Kirellian core path. You are dismissed. The projection vanished. Back in the recovery suite, Zeta Nar had finished his nutrient portion and was slowly flexing his primary limbs. Ves had adjusted the tank's elevation to allow more upright orientation. He tolerated the broth, Ves reported. No signs of aspiration or vascular stress. Andrew leaned against the wall. Good, I thought I'd have to argue with them for hours. Turns out they just wanted to hear that I'm not insane. Ves tilted their head. They do not understand humans. But they respect results. Zeta Nar tapped one limb against the tank wall, producing a soft knock. He is requesting to be removed from the tank within the cycle, Ves said. Andrew crossed his arms. Fine by me if he can stand on his own and pass the mobility scan. I'm not dragging him around in a hover sling. As Ves began the preliminary scans, Soreth returned with an updated chart. The council has approved your discharge, he said. You are no longer required to remain aboard, Andrew nodded. What about Zeta Nar? He will be transported to a Kirellian vessel for full reintegration. Good. He deserves to recover with his own people. Soreth handed over a small data disk. This contains a full record of your procedure, including annotations from our own staff. Thanks, Andrew said. I'll add it to the pile of things no one will believe back home. You may also choose a compensation form. The council has authorized a selection. I'm not taking money. It is not currency. They offer knowledge, access to restricted xenomedical archives. Andrew paused. That's different. You have 3 cycles to decide. Back in the corridor, Andrew walked slowly, taking in the quiet hum of the ship systems. Ves caught up beside him. You will leave soon. Yeah, my shuttle's cleared for departure. Will you return if summoned? Andrew looked at them. If someone's bleeding out and nobody else knows what to do? Yeah, I'll come back. Ves nodded once. Then we will remember Halden. Andrew offered a tired grin. Just remember to prep the tank next time. I'm not sewing anyone up in 0G again. They reached the docking bay in silence. As the shuttle prepped for launch, Andrew glanced back once at the medbay entrance. Zeta Nar's silhouette was visible through the viewport, upright now. Limbs folded in acknowledgement. Andrew raised a hand. Then the doors closed and the shuttle drifted free. He leaned back in his seat, eyes already shutting, and muttered, 3 hours, a spine full of regret, and a whole new footnote in alien textbooks. The pilot glanced back. Did you say something? Andrew shook his head. Nope, just leaving the galaxy slightly weirder than I found it.